Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video I will discuss the important questions from the famous novella or the novel titled The Financial Expert, written by R.K.Narayan. I have taken the reference from your textbook, that is a 4-semester BCom BBA Generic English NEP syllabus under Bangalore City University BCU. So with reference to the BCU Generic English textbook, I have tried to solve the questions from the textbook. So now maybe the video will be quite longest one, but definitely this video will help you to score well in the examination. To begin with, we have here the very first section when you need to answer the questions for the 5 marks. You need to write the answer in a page. Question number 1. Describe the conflict between Margaya and Dr. Pal and its consequences. The financial expert deals with the story of Margaya, who is obsessed with the thought of money. He begins his career in banking, sitting with a tin box under a banyan tree in front of the Malgudi Central Cooperative Land Mortgage Bank. He earns money by helping the farmers in getting the loans. In order to extend his financial frontiers, he performs puja to Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, for 40 days. As a result, he meets Dr. Pal, who is a journalist, a sociologist, and an author. His new friend brings a new plan for Margaret to earn more money. Dr. Dr. Pal brings a script titled Bed Life or Signs of Marital Happiness, and he suggests Margaret that he can mint money, he can get millions from its publication. Margaya purchases the manuscript for 25 rupees. He publishes this manuscript with the help of a printer, Madan Lal of Gordon Printery, and Margaya has renamed this manuscript as the Domestic Harmony. So he has started to get rich and richer after the publication of this sex book. So the profit was getting doubled, and finally he has purchased the share of the company of Madan Lal also. So what happened with the help of Dr. Pal? He started a new business of money lending. But all his money-making device fails to equip with him with the wisdom to guide the growth of his son Balu. He could not make his son grow. Margaya's final enterprise is to attract the deposits in the bank on 20% interest. Dr. Pal functions as his tool. Dr. Pal's contact results in a sack full of money, but he's deftly taken away from Balu, his son. He was very much upset as far as Balu's activities are concerned. One evening, Balu comes to Marga's house smelling of liquor. He is in an aggressive mood. Balu vehemently demands his lawful share. Marga fails to guess why Balu needs so much money. The same night, Marga goes to Balu's house. Balu's wife says that Balu's wife, that is Brinda, and the little boy, they're alone. And Balu's wife says that every every day, Balu comes to home at 2 o'clock in the morning. He goes with Dr. Pal, and he'll be drunkard. When he comes back, he'll be seen as drunkard, and sometimes he'll be in the company of the few girls. He also chews tobacco and consumes alcohol. So Marga suspects Dr. Pal's hand in ruining his son. Finally, Marga beats Dr. Pal when Dr. Pal comes to drop Balu at Balu's house, at Balu's gate. So Dr. Pal takes a revenge by disclosing his business secrets and persuading people to withdraw the amount from his bank. So what's the result? The result is very much disastrous. Marga's house and office are full of men who are shouting for the money. The financial expert, Margaya, is ruined beyond measure. He is reduced to a state of dreadful poverty and finally decides to take out a living by taking his old profession of small financier under a banyan tree opposite to the Central Cooperative Land Mortgage Bank. So again, he thinks that let's go back to my old working place, and he goes back to his old working place as the old financier in front of the under the banyan tree opposite to the Central Cooperative Land Mortgage Bank, Malgudi. So these were the consequences. Second question, describe the Indian life which is treated in this novel. How does this novel financial expert portrays the Indian life? So among the Indian writers, R.K.Narayan is the most widely read novelist. He's preeminently a storyteller. His stories are not only interesting in themselves but also very suggestive in the sense that they are a creative comment on the contemporary reality given in the Indian context. His protagonists perform functions which have social and individual significance. R.K. Narayan's novel, The Financial Expert, provides a vivid portrayal of Indian life, particularly in the fictional town of Malgudi. The novel, The Financial Expert, captures the struggles of ordinary people trying to make a living. Margaya, the protagonist, starts as a small time moneylender and faces many challenges in his quest for wealth and status. The financial practices and economic conditions of the time are very much highlighted, showcasing how people lead their financial lives through borrowing, lending, and saving. Margaya's interactions with his wife and son reflect typical familial roles and expectations in Indian society. The novel is rich in cultural references depicting various festivals, rituals, and traditions that are integral to Indian life. Margaya's rise and fall in societal status provide insights into the social hierarchy and class distinctions which are prevalent in the Indian society. The novel also illustrates how wealth and power can alter one's social standing and the respect one commands within the community. Margaya's journey is marked by his ethical compromises and the consequences they bring, providing a critique of materialism and greed. So, hence, we can say that R.K. Narayan's The Financial Expert offers a rich depiction of Indian life, blending humor and pathos to create a realistic portrayal of the challenges and the complexities faced by individuals in the pursuit of success and happiness. So, that's the relevance of Indian life in The Financial Expert. Write a note on the humor in The Financial Expert. So I have given the very long answer to this question because I expect this question may be asked for the 10 marks also. The Financial Expert is a comic novel. The comedy is produced both by the character and situations as well. The characters of the novel are so comical that you are compelled to laugh. Margaya and his son, Balu, they are the most comical characters in the novella. In the novel, in the very beginning of the novel, the description of Margaya's personality is very humorous. He has a little barber's box and keeps an ink pot, a pen, an ink blotter, a small register, and some loan application forms of the cooperative bank. He uses his spectacles but wants to avoid them because he does not wish to look old. He has taken the glasses on trial. Now he has completely forgotten to go that way again. He hates the idea of being old. His certain habits are the source of laughter. When he leaves his house, he assures his son that he will bring tiny toys for him, but he returns with empty hands every evening. His dressing sense also brings laughter. Quote, he keeps a new gorgeous dhoti and shirt in his box with a piece of camphor for special occasion. But when his pride hurt, he abandons his old dress and puts on the new one. Now he thinks himself rich and he asks Arul Das, the peon of the cooperative bank, to receive his old dress. And now he displays an air of superiority before his customers. His talk with his customers and the inner working of his mind is always a source of laughter for the readers. Dr. Pal plays an important role in the comic events of the novel. His style of talking with Margaya and driving a baby Austin gives him a comical appearances. There's a great deal of comical episodes in the novel. The most humorous of them is when Balu snatches the red account book from his father and runs with it in the street. Margaya is chasing and cursing Balu. Some passerby in Whip in Vaibayak, Mudali Street stop to watch this ridiculous scene. Margaya shouts loudly and asks them to catch Sun. When Balu is encircled by so many people, he at once throws the red book into the dirty gutter. He stands upon the edge of the gutter without any care and look at that book with great fascination. There is no trace of book left anywhere. Margaya loses his temper, begins to beat Balu, but the humor, the humorous thing is that Margaya is condemned by the crowd for being so much cruel with such a child, and Balu gains the sympathy of the crowd. One more interesting and comical situation is here Margaya's wife, Minakshi, who is not at home. She has left Balu in Margaya's custody, but even then his hands are burnt while burning the paper in the lamp. Hearing his shriek, his mother comes in from the neighboring shop. She begins to scold and condemn Margaya for his neglect of duty of taking care of Balu. With this, readers are compelled to smile. Another laughter provoking episode is when the priest is forcing Margaya to drink milk just like baby. The priest says to him, "Drink that milk, it will make you all right." But Margaya replies very empathetically that he does not like milk. But the priest becomes angry and he says, "You push away milk with the back of your hand as if it were a tumbler of ditch water." Margaya feels sorry for it. The priest warns Margaya, saying, "Milk is one of the forms of goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. When you reject it or treat it indifferently, it means you reject her." Hearing this, Margaya becomes very cautious and very reverently touches the tumbler of the milk and very respectfully drinks the milk, taking care not to spill even a drop. Margaret's effort to search his horoscope in dim lights is also a humorous incident. One funnier situation is born when the family of Margaret's brother always peeps in his house. They come to his house when something is wrong in the house and provides them food, but when everything is normal, they never meet him or talk with the family. The best comic scene in the novel is Margaya's performance of Lakshmi Puja in order to become rich in the society. The priest gives him some mantras to recite and gives certain instructions to follow during that puja vidhi. Margaya wanders in search of red lotus, the skin of the deer, and the most challenging one was the ghee made of milk drawn from a smoke-colored cow. With all these various comic incidents of the novel The Financial Expert, it's a very fine example of Narayan's excels as a true humorist. In short, we can say that Narayan's art of comic characterization attained its apex of excellence in Margaya, The Financial Expert. So that's about the comedy, that's about humor. This question may be asked for 10 marks also. Next one, sketch the character of Margaya in the novel Financial Expert. Character sketch of Margaya, the main protagonist. Margaya's character is one of the most fascinating characters ever penned by the versatile R.K.Narayan. Margaya is the protagonist in the novel. His name literally means the one who guides and shows path to others. Marg Ayya. In this case, he solves the financial problems of the villagers by lending them money to tide over immediate crisis. He is the hero as well as the anti-hero. He is a round character beginning from zero, then going to hero, but finally landing to zero again. Marga's life is a quest for and against destiny. Margaya begins his life as a pretty moneylender sitting below the old banyan tree with his little tin box opposite to the financial bank. He becomes the lending financier of the town. But his sharp intelligence and wit raises him to a wealthy businessman. He is an optimist by nature and a very much caring father. He was also very hardworking. He had very good interpersonal skills. In spite of being ruined by his son several times, he still hits back at life with vigor, but his good fortune is short lived and he returns to his original vocation at the end of the novel. Thus, we can see Margaya as a blend of good and bad qualities. His lust for wealth ruins him. Through him, R.K.Narayan has shown both sides of a human being. So that's a character sketch of Margaya. Very important question for 5 marks. Fifth question: on the basis of the novel, the financial expert proved that love of money is the root of all evil. The impact of money, the materialism. The protagonist Margaya is obsessed with money and financial success, which significantly influences his life and relationships. Margaya's primary goal is to become wealthy and respected in the society. His ambition leads him to become a financial advisor, offering his services to villagers. His obsession with money blinds him to the other important aspects of life, such as family and ethical behavior. Margaya's pursuit of money affects his relationship with his family, particularly his son Balu. His focus on financial success leads to neglect and misunderstanding within the family. Balu's wayward behavior can be seen as a response to Margaya's obsession with money and the lack of emotional support. His unethical methods to accumulate wealth eventually lead to his downfall. R.K. Narayan has used Narayan's Margaya story to comment on the corrupting influence of money and the dangers of valuing wealth above all else. That's the reason that money is the root of all the evils. Sixth question: the relationship between Margaya and Balu, father and son relationship. In the novel, The Financial Expert by R.K. Narayan, the father son relationship is portrayed as very, very distant. The protagonist of the novel, Margaya, has a son named Balu who grows up resenting his father's neglect and materialistic values. Margaya, being a financial expert, is solely focused on accumulating wealth and improving his social status. He neglects his family and fails to provide emotional support to his son. Balu, in turn, feels unloved and unwanted by his father, and eventually he leaves his home to pursue his own dreams. As the novel progresses, Margaya realizes the emptiness of the materialistic pursuits and seeks to reunite with his son. However, the damage has already been done. The relationship remains very distant and very formal. Thus, the father son relationship in the financial expert novel is characterized by neglect, resentment, and a lack of emotional connection. It highlights the negative impact of materialism on family relationships and the importance of prioritizing emotional bonds over material wealth. Seventh question: the financial expert is the novel of the rise and fall of Margaya. Very important question. the ups and downs of Margaya's life. The novel Financial Expert is written by R.K.Narayan. This novel portrays the rise and fall of Margaya, the protagonist of the novel. The novel has five sections dealing with particular phases in the life of hero Margaya. The first part portrays Margaya's career as a small town moneylender doing his business under a banyan tree in front of the centered cooperative bank in Malgudi. The meeting of Margaya with Dr. Pal makes and mars also damages Margaya's life. The second part tells about the meteoric rise of uh, Margaya to the Himalayan heights of glory and prestige after he gets a book on sexuology written by Dr. Pal and publishes it with the generous cooperation of Mr. Madan Lal, not Madalal, Madan Lal, the owner of Gordon Printery. The third part of the novel deals with Margaya's efforts to get his son Balu pass SSC examination, but failures helps Balu to disappear him from home. So he fails and Balu runs away from the house. Somehow Margaya succeeds in recovering his son. The fourth part deals with Balu's marriage with Brinda, the daughter of a rich tea estate owner of Mempi. Margaya launches an attractive deposit come interest scheme. The scheme creates ripples in the financial world, emptying many well established financial institutions. Margaya is at the peak of financial and social glory. The fifth part deals with Margaya's fall from the height of glory after his encounter with Dr. Pal at the residence of his son Balu. Margaya has to refund all the deposit with him, and he's left as a very bankrupt person. All his property is confiscated, and he remains to pauper. Thus, the novel portrays the rise and fall of an extraordinary financial wizard. Last question for the 5 marks as well as for 10 marks. I will also say that this question they may ask for 10 marks also. Discuss the significance of the title, The Financial Expert. So friends, don't forget to watch my video on summary of the financial expert. The link is in the description box or in the playlist. So discuss the significance of the title. Justify the title of the novel Financial Expert. The Financial Expert can aptly be called Narayan's first masterpiece and Margaya his greatest comic creation. Margaya is an obscure middleman who seeks out a living by sitting under the banyan tree in front of the land mortgage bank and helping the villagers with the loans. One day he's humiliated by the bank secretary and he determines to grow rich. He seeks the advice of a priest who recommends a long ritual for 40 days to please the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. His luck turns. He meets one Dr. Pal, an eccentric sociologist who sells him a pornographic book called Bed Life. Margaret changes the title to Domestic Harmony and publishes the book and makes big money. He becomes the wizard of finance, as Leacock loved to call his character, Tomlinson. His business flourishes and his passion for money turns into an obsession, then a mania. But when he sees that his son is being spoiled by Dr. Pal, the inevitable crash comes. He quarrels with Dr. Pal, who investigates hundreds of Marga's customers to withdraw their deposits, thus producing a run on the bank. This ruins Margaya completely, and he files an insolvency petition, goes back to his old place carrying his old tin box in front of the bank. Like Jefferson Thorpe, Margaya also riding on the crest of the wave, and he's back where he has started. But he's not greedy or wicked. Narayan has humanized him, shows that despite his lust for money, he is a human being just like one among us. The irony of the fate can be seen at work in the life or career of Margaya. Multiple layers of irony can be found in the title of the novel. Is he really financial expert? As the title indicates, fate, supported by human efforts, makes an obscure middleman a financial expert. Later, supported by human error, reduces the financial expert to his former condition. Margaya's real name is Krishna, but people call him Marg Ayya, which means one who shows the way, because he shows the way to obtain a loan from the bank and also helps those who are in financial trouble. The irony is that he who shows the way to others himself loses the way and ends up as a bankrupt. So irony operates at very every stage of Margaya's rise and fall. The finest stroke of irony occurs in the final episode where Balu regretfully returns to Marga's house. His advice to his son is to go to the banyan tree in front of the bank. He says, "Go there. That is all I can say. Anything may happen thereafter. If you're not going, I'm going on with it as soon as I'm able to leave this bed." In spite of his traumatic experience, Margaret remains unchanged. He is still hopeful that the next turn of the wheel of the fortune will again restore his dream. This only underscores the fundamental irony of human nature that one learns little from the experience. So, hence, the title of the novel is justified. It's very much apt, very much noteworthy, and this is the interesting title. So, friends, these are the questions we have discussed here for the 5 marks. Now we are going to have the discussion for the question for the 10 marks. Now, in your textbook, which you need to answer in 2 pages each, in your textbook, for the 10 marks, they have given the questions like this, where you need to write the short notes on all these particular topics. So we'll have a discussion one by one. Let's have a short note on Dr. Pal. Margaya's companion, Dr. Pal, a subordinate character, has been portrayed brilliantly. He is a man of 30, his face still youthful, tall man with sunken cheeks. Marga encounters him when he made a trip to the pond beyond Saryu. Dr. Paul is busy in search of news and he devotes to writing books on sociology. He is a journalist. He has done PhD in sociology. Living in poverty, he is immensely interested in his job as a writer. He unhesitatingly shows Marga the manuscript of his book entitled Bed Life or the Science of Marital Happiness, and this book is based on the sexology. According to Dr. Paul, this is a branch of sociology. His main purpose is to create happiness in the world and to prevent tragedies relating to ill-matched couples. He is Balu's constant companion. Balu and Dr. Pal gathered in a house of a man who called himself a theatrical agent. They sat there continuously playing cards till midnight. They chewed tobacco and betel leaves. Within a few days, Margaya understands that Dr. Pal is the cause for the ruin of his son. When he was badly beaten up by Margaya, he recorded an immediate complaint with the police. Dr. Pal turns an enemy and he pushed Margaya back to the position from where he had started his business. Dr. Pal realizes his position quite late in the novel. He is rightly assessed, saying, "I'm an academic man. I should not have associated with businessmen." Thus, Dr. Pal proves to be a tremendous force in the novel. Next, write a short note on Balu. So, Balu's character provides very interesting study in the novel. He is an apple of Margaya's eyes, only child of Margaya. He has no interest in study. It's a matter of fact. Margaya wanted Balu to grow into a well-educated man, probably going for higher studies to Europe or America. He had a dream about his son becoming great government official or something of the kind. Margaya cherishes high hopes about his son, but his ardent ambition is never fulfilled. He thinks that Balu will not study in a corporation school, he will study in the convent with the sons of the collector and of the superintendent of police. But the irony is that Balu cannot pass even his SSLC examination and he remains undereducated and idle throughout his life. Balu has picked up a new habit of smoking. He spoils himself, he deserts home, he runs away from the home, and with the timely help of a police officer, Balu is located in Madras. His discovery makes Margaya happy. After marriage, he is allowed to live separately with his wife Brinda in Lali Extension. Here, Dr. Pal enters his life, and Balu forgets all the responsibilities towards his wife and the little baby. Here, Margaya cherished dreams about Balu. Here, Margaya's cherished dreams about Balu are scattered. As Graham Greene has mentioned very aptly, saying Margaya's son Balu, whose progress from charming childhood to spoiled, frustrated manhood is perhaps the very saddest episode R.K.Narayan has written. Next, write a short note on Minakshi. Narayan's minor characters are also interesting. They are the natives of Malgudi. R.K. Narayan shows the suffering of middle class wives with his deep insight. Their role is very silent. Margaret's wife Minakshi endures everything patiently. She tolerates everything patiently. She speaks very little. As a wife, Minakshi is always anxious for the welfare of her husband, Balu. When Margaya works, I'm sorry, not Balu, when Margaya works interminably on account of working banking business, his wife is worried over his thin appearance. In spite of knowing Balu smoking cigarette, his coming home late, his non-serious attitude to his studies, Minakshi, the mother, does not take any action, which remains a central concern in the text. These habitual omissions characterize Minakshi, a passive mother in the narrative. She seems to symbolize a middle class Indian wife who always lives in a haunted man dominated society. Minakshi again does not want Balu to live in a separate house after marriage. It's again her act of omission that is responsible for Balu's living separate with his wife. Minakshi remains silent throughout her life. She herself comes to the conclusion that if she wants to live in peace, she should better remain silent, as it is no use arguing with her husband. Her habitual omission suggests her preference for illusion over reality, which later plays a very tragic role in her life. Narayana R.K. Narayan shows the suffering of middle class wives with his deep insight. That's about Minakshi. Write a short note on Brinda. The other woman character, the other woman character in the novel is Brinda, the wife of Balu. She's 17 years old. She's said to be extremely fair. Her father is the owner of a tea estate in Mampi Hills. He ekes out an annual income of 2,000 rupees from his tea estate. Margaya considers her to be a good match for his son. He induces the priest to declare the horoscope of the two as compatible on a temptation of payment of extra fees. Hence, Brinda and Balu are married. She gives birth to a child. While at Margaya's house, Brinda lives in peace with a mother in law. She remains confined inside her house, inside her room with Balu for the most part of the day. They lead a happy married life. She is equally respectful to her father in law, Margaya, when he visits them in their new house in Lawley Extension at night. after his tiff with Balu in his office during the day. He finds her alone there. She keeps on standing as a mark of respect to him while talking to him. Margaya has to ask her to sit. In spite of her good qualities, Brinda falls a victim to idol Balu's evil habits. The company of Dr. Paul spoils Balu thoroughly. Dr. Paul puts into his mind the notion of demanding 50% share in his father's property. A quarrel occurs between the father and the son over this issue. Balu goes daily with Dr. Paul to a theater where they play cards, drink, and freely mix with some women and return home very late at night. Brinda discloses these moments of Balu to Margaya when Margaya insists upon her to expose the facts to him. Margaya just out of the main entrance of the house when Balu gets out of Dr. Paul's baby Austin car at 2 a.m. There is some woman also in the car. Maria loses control over himself and assaults Dr. Paul. He is put to harsh beating. Brenda does not feel agitated over this incident. She calmly opens the door to let her husband come in and puts off the light of the house. She is tolerant towards the undesirable conduct of her husband. Brinda shows a remarkable capacity of adaptability to the changing circumstances or to the ups and downs of life. She moves to the new house without making any fuss about it. Similarly, she views Balu's wrong activities with accommodating attitude so that the peace and the normalcy of their household is maintained. She goes through mental suffering for the sake of peace at home. Moreover, when Margaya goes bankrupt then and the new house has to be sold off, she returns with Balu to her in-laws' house. She shows no signs of agitation over this unexpected mishap. She's unruffled and takes it as a part of life. Balu is no match for her in qualities. His devilish nature gets more exposed vis-a-vis her gentleness and meekness. He goes from bad to worse after his marriage in the company of Dr. Pal. Marga is proved wrong that he will improve after his marriage with Brinda. Fifth question. Write a short note on Margaya as a symbol of greed. Margaya has a flair for minor financial transactions, which are an integral part of Indian life. We first meet him sitting in the shades of banyan tree, advising the people of Malgudi how to extract loan from the cooperative bank. A brush with the secretary of the bank and an incident in which his spoilt son Balu throws his account book down a drain cut short his career as a financier. Then his godfather comes in the form of Dr. Pal, who gives him a manuscript of the book Bed Life concerning marriage and sex. This on publication becomes an instant success, and with the money, Margaya starts a money lending business which makes him rich. But Balu again proves a nuisance. He doesn't pass his matriculation, and once he even runs away to Mysore. So all the parents do, Margaya fixes Balu's marriage with Vinda to make him straight-headed. After the birth of his child, he demands his share. Margaya finds Dr. Pal working behind all this, and in anger, he beats him with his sandal. Now Pal is pissed off and he works against Margaya. As a result of the rumors, Margaya's depositors demand their money back, which makes him poor overnight. His family home is saved with the help of his brother. Margay asks his son to sit under the banyan tree and start his former business, but Balu is too dignified to do such a thing. So Margay himself goes to his profession with the determination to continue it until his death. It is Margay's greed and lust for money which has brought him back where he started his career. Fifth question. Write a short note on Margay's red book. Margay's Margaya accounts all his business transactions in a red book. This red book contains all the entries of his transactions with clients. When Balu, his spoiled child, throws his account book into the gutter, it becomes impossible for Margaya to resume his old practice. Then Margaya shows his horoscope to an astrologer. He shows his horoscope to an astrologer, and he's assured that good time is coming for him if only he does the puja to Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. The puja is done for 40 days. It's ash from a red lotus and ghee made out of milk from a grey cow. Margaya goes through the puja, and at the end of it, it's full of hopes of prosperous career. Last question, the secretary of the sixth question, the secretary of the bank. The secretary of the write a short note on the secretary of the bank. The secretary of the cooperative bank is an up-to-date, strong person. When one day Marga is about to pack up, the secretary appears before him. He's wearing a brown suit. His hands are in his pockets, and behind him, at a respectable distance stands. Who stands here? Arul Das, that's the peon. He is very smart with a hat on his head. He is very tidy, young man. He looks as if he has just returned from Europe. He picks up a handful of papers from the box of Marga and asks him how he came by the forms. He cautions Marga against keeping illegally the bank application forms and threatens him with the dire consequences, with handing him over to the police. The secretary has insulted Marga. Marga feels humiliated and contrasts his shabby figure, dirty dhoti, and torn shirt with the smart appearance of the secretary with fine dress and hat on. He's obsessed by him. He's always reminded of him whenever there's an issue of the prestige or loneliness, loneliness involved. Spelling error. There's an example. The world was going to be transformed into one of shining teeth, but a misgiving assailed him. How could he make people buy? How could he make people buy it rather than a dozen other tooth powders? He could not go about hawking it in the streets. It would be a fine lookout if the secretary of the cooperative society caught him at it. Last question for this video, friends. Arul Das. Write a short note on the Arul Das, the peon. Arul Das is the peon in the cooperative bank. He comes to Margaya on the instance of the secretary of the bank and tells Margaya that his sahib has summoned him. Later, when Margaya offers him his old clothes, he tries to please him and says that his sahib is a crooked person. Margaya feels humiliated. When Arul Das warns him, he speaks very highly in regard to the position of his boss, the secretary. Whenever the heart of the matter is the issue of whenever the heart of the matter of the issue is the prestige, he gets obsessed by this person. So there's an example of his obsession. He has thought of selling tooth powder when he's reminded of Arul Das. So he was he was told like this. Arul Das would call out, "Hey tooth powder, come here, give me a packet. Here are three pies." And he would have to gather the coppers like a beggar, with peals of laughter ringing out from the whole world. So this is how I have tried to solve the questions of the famous novel, The Financial Expert. I have solved the 5 marks questions, 10 marks questions with reference to your textbook. And please do watch my video on the summary of The Financial Expert. The links are in the description box. Thank you so much for watching this video. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Please do subscribe the channel, click on the like button for more videos on literature, workbook, pronunciation, grammar, communication skills, presentation skills, interview skills. Stay in tune with Mukesh English. Thank you once again.